Hands up if you think that the participants of the riots in England over the last couple of nights actually give a shit about the incidents or the victims themselves, and aren't just using what happened in Southport as a bit of a launch pad for basically long-standing racist bigotry. I mean, I think it's the latter. Obviously, I think it's the latter. And part of the reason why I think this is, I mean, I researched this extensively, this phenomenon of rumour spread, to an extent. I say extensively, to an extent. It was part of my PhD research, where I considered how comments on social media could justify someone's reaction or justify collective reaction to particular social phenomena. And in this particular example, since the Southport atrocity a couple of nights ago now, false information spread on social media is in the minds of those who are attending or who basically trashed Southport 2 nights ago, and who are rioting currently as I record this in London and one or two other places in the United Kingdom. In their minds, that false behaviour, that false information, it justifies that behaviour, and it is false. Of course it is, because it's been addressed. They're seemingly still not really caring about the falseness of that information, but it is false, and the false information we're talking about is down to, you know, the ethnicity, the nationality of the Southport perpetrator. Not that that should matter. It shouldn't. Some of the arguments I see from these people, these cretins on the far right, is that it's nearly like crime would be okay as long as it's a white person, as long as it's someone with a British accent, because we don't hear them talking about any other variable that contributes to crime, in a much bigger and a much more meaningful way. For example, you do not hear any of them at these events, at these riots, at these protests against mosques and against asylum seekers. You don't hear any of them talk about gender and how violence is largely a male thing, how it is largely men who are, yes, officially, according to crime statistics, on the receiving end of violence, but violence from men. You don't hear them talk about those statistics. You don't hear them talk about the likelihood of a male perpetrator in homicides, for example. You don't hear them talk about how white individuals constitute the largest group of offenders in the United Kingdom. They constitute, white offenders, the largest percentage of the current prison population. There is, to be fair, to bring measurement to this discussion, there is an overrepresentation at the minute of black and ethnic minority groups. And by overrepresentation in the prison system, what I mean is we have a higher percentage of black and ethnic minority prisoners than what we do of that population in the general population. So there are roughly, I believe, about 12%. No, not 12%. There is roughly a higher percentage of black and ethnic people in the prison population as opposed to their percentage of the general population outside of prison. Okay, and that could be a number of things. That could be, or that could be contributed to by a number of things. And race isn't going to be it. The colour of one's skin is not going to be a contributor to that. One's religion is largely not going to be a contributor to that either. For me as a criminologist, for me as a social scientist, I look more at social inequalities. I look theoretically at things like strain theories, for example, if we're talking about a particular type of crime. I do not look at crime, I do not look at race, because that is fucking stupid. It is moronic to think that. So they don't talk about ethnicity, because if they did, if they meaningfully talked about ethnicity, and they were really disturbed by the crime itself, then they would not be talking about, or they would not be believing, and creating and then believing their own rumours to justify riots and hate crimes against minority groups. They won't talk about, again, the link to ethnicity, nationality, because of course the biggest proportion of offenders within the prison system are white British people. And when it comes to religion, you've guessed it, it's not the target demographic that these people are blaming for all of society's ills. So whenever they turn around and say enough is enough, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I really don't. I honestly don't. And if someone could explain that to me in detail with actual legitimate evidence to back it up, because I've been listening to these arguments since I started my PhD research what year are we now? Some 8-9 years ago. It's still the same argument now as it was then, and it is still as weak now as it was then as well. So they won't talk about these other demographics. And I mean, these figures, they aren't hard to find. Go on to the Office of National Statistics. Go on and look at the most recent, as recent as July 2024, the House of Commons UK prison population statistics. So when they talk and say things like enough is enough, I genuinely don't know what they mean. Because this is not to reduce the atrocity of Southport, but I have to question whether or not these people will be on the streets if, well, it was a white man. This is the thing. It was a fellow from Wales. I don't actually know if he was white, to be fair, because no one really. I'm not buying into social media speculation. So at this point in time, me as a credible researcher, I'm only going off what has been released by police and by reputable sources. So nothing about ethnicity. What we know is the fella's he comes from Cardiff. So as far as we know, he's Welsh. We know he's 17, and we know he's under arrest. We actually don't know what ethnicity is, and again, none of this matters anyway. But the point remains: would they be talking, or would they be on the streets if they knew for certain? Let's put it that way. If it was released half an hour after that this was a young white British male, would these people be on the street? I don't think that they would, which signifies to me immediately that they don't give a shit about the victims, and they don't really give a shit about the crime. This is just justification to excrete division, to excrete hate. That's all this is. So they can try and give some patriotic rationale as best but they can shout it as loud as they want. But we should see through that. We should see right through that. And I mean, it's, from a criminologist's perspective, it's academically intriguing to see things like this play out. But as someone who likes to think that they've got their head switched on and or their head screwed on, and likes to critically analyze social phenomena, it's quite depressing. But look, let me know what you think in the comments section. Am I wrong? If I am, where am I wrong? Try and tell me. Give me some links. Show me where I have been mistaken. If not, let me know if you think the same as me as well, and maybe add a few contributing points to this discussion. So until next time.